rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Here's today's prophecy update. The November 29, 1947 UN vote for Resolution 181 on the partition of Palestine historically led to the declaration of the State of Israel. UN headquarters in New York and world body institutions in Geneva and Paris mark the anniversary with expressions of solidarity with the Palestinian people. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter has marked the anniversary by calling on Barack Obama to recognize Palestine before he hands the White House over to Donald Trump. Isn't it amazing that the issue of the State of Israel is still such a bone of contention 69 years after the vote to create a state for the Jews? What's really behind all of this? We'll talk about it on today's edition of End of the Age. Now, the news is absolutely filled with this subject. However, before we go there, I have a very important and urgent announcement. Tomorrow evening, right here at the Endtime headquarters, we will begin a new series called From Here to Armageddon. This is the newest thing produced by Endtime Ministries. It consists of 8 lessons. It begins Thursday, December the 1st at 7 p.m. here at the Endtime headquarters. Our address is 2701 East President George Bush Highway in Plano, Texas. For more information, you may email drobbins@endtime.com. That's DROBBINS at endtime.com. Everyone is welcome. There's no charge. You will enjoy it. This will give you the clearest thing we've ever done on the events that you will live through between today and the Battle of Armageddon. If you haven't been through From Here to Armageddon, I would urge you to make it a priority to be at these meetings. Your entrance will be on the east side at the front of our building at 2701 East President George Bush Highway. This coming Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. Love for you to be here. I will be doing the teaching. My son-in-law, Dave Robbins, will be doing the moderation. So I know you're going to enjoy it because it's so impactful. Let me just give you one hint. We have prepared a brand new timeline showing you all of the major events that will happen, specifically prophesied in the Bible. And don't forget, the prophecies always, 100%, come to pass. We show what the major events between now and Armageddon will be. And you're going to live that timeline over the next few years. You can know in advance what's coming. A lot of people say, oh, nobody knows the future. That's totally wrong. The Bible has many prophecies in it, and many of them are for right now, for the times just ahead of us. So you will pull back the curtain. You'll peer into the future right through the lens of God's Word. And I promise you it is going to be a wonderful experience. So it's available to you. Hope you can make it. Now, we want to talk today about Israel's 69th anniversary. It all began on November the 29th of 1947 when the UN, hoping to solve the conflict between the Israelis and the Arabs. Now, both of them at the time were called Palestinians because they all lived in the territory called Palestine. The territory of Palestine had been under Ottoman control up until World War I. And then after World War I, with the defeat of the Ottoman Empire, Britain took control of this part of the world. There were no states there. There was no Israel. There was no Jordan. It was simply a stateless territory. But there was a mixed population of Jews and Arabs. The Jews desperately needed a homeland. They had just come out of Hitler's horrible Holocaust. So the sentiment in the UN was, let's make a place for the Jews. On November 29th of 1947, they voted to partition the land called Palestine. They created an Israeli state and a Palestinian state. The Jewish people gladly accepted the partition plan from the United Nations. The Arabs rudely rejected it, opting for war instead. Now, since both parties involved did not accept the resolution became null and void, and all of its stipulations hit the dustbin of history, even though now we find Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinians, wanting to revive Resolution 181. He often quotes it, but I don't know why he quotes it, because the Arabs rejected it in 1947 out of hand. But yet now he wants to go back because they would have gotten more then than they will get now. But they chose war instead of peace. They weren't interested in a state. To show they were not interested in a state, after the War of Independence concluded in 1948-49, Jordan occupied the area called the West Bank. Did they create a Palestinian state? They were in total control. No, they didn't. They don't care about a Palestinian state. They want to wipe out the nation of Israel. We hear it over and over. As recently as last week, one of the leaders in Iran said that Israel will cease to exist within the next 10 years. That was his opinion. They're still beating the same drum. Well, since yesterday marked the 69th anniversary of that very historic UN partition vote, I want us to take a look at what actually happened there. This article comes from Debka File just yesterday. The 1947 UN vote for Resolution 181 on the partition of Palestine historically led to a declaration of the State of Israel. UN headquarters in New York, Geneva, Paris, all marked the anniversary with expressions of solidarity with the Palestinian people. Now, I want to go on to our next article because Jimmy Carter is endorsing the Palestinian position. And he wrote an op-ed for the New York Times this past week. I want to give you a little bit of it. This article comes from the Jerusalem Post. Jimmy Carter, U.S. must recognize a Palestinian state. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter has called on the outgoing Obama administration to take steps toward recognizing a Palestinian state before leaving office in January. Now, President Obama has December and a good part of January left. He has about 2 months left in his administration. Jimmy Carter is calling for him to officially recognize Palestinian statehood. In an effort to make it irreversible, he also believes that this action would cause a stampede of other nations to also recognize Palestinian statehood. The article goes on to tell us the 39th U.S. president made the call in his op-ed in New York Times on Monday under the title, "America Must Recognize Palestine." We do not yet know the policy of the next administration toward Israel and Palestine, but we do know that the current administration is keen on achieving a two-state solution, Carter wrote. That prospect is now in grave doubt, Carter said. pointing toward the uncertainty surrounding incoming U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's exact policy on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Carter urged the U.S. to push for a UN Security Council resolution laying out the parameters for resolving the conflict. The resolution, he added, should reaffirm the illegality of all Israeli settlements beyond the 1967 borders, while leaving open the possibility that the parties could negotiate modifications to the borders. Carter, who in recent years has been viewed as harboring an anti-Israel stance, asserted that his primary foreign policy goal of my life has been to help bring peace to Israel and its neighbors. In his op-ed, Carter praised the Obama administration as well as other previous administrations for their role in trying to reach a peace deal, but said that the prospects for such an agreement are now growing slim. He made the charge placing the onus on Israel and criticizing Jerusalem's policies without mention of Palestinian terrorism or Palestinian rejections of past peace offers. Israel is building more and more settlements, displacing Palestinians and entrenching its occupation of Palestinian lands, he charged. This process, Carter claimed, will bring about a one-state reality that could destroy Israeli democracy and will result in intensifying international condemnation of Israel. Now I want to pause right here to consider a few of the things that former President Carter had to say. He condemned Israel while rooting for the Palestinians. Yet he made no mention of the fact that if you go to Palestinian schools today, they do not recognize Israel. They train their children to hate Israel. They have maps that don't even have Israel on the map, but they envision the time when Israel will be wiped off the map. And they continually promote terrorism. The terrorists have streets named after them, like we would name streets after our presidents and our governors and other important people. Well, they name their streets after terrorists, and the more people they murder, the bigger street they get named after themselves. They also pay the families of terrorists rewards of putting them on pensions for the rest of their lives. So they are avid advocates of terrorism. And yet, here a former president, President Carter, is blaming the lack of peace on Israel. Now, is Israel building settlements in some parts of the promised land of Israel? Yes, they are. They should build settlements in the entirety of their promised land. God gave it to them. Now, President Carter paints himself as a religious man, taught Sunday school for many years, but I'm wondering if he never read his Bible, because the Bible clearly states that God gave this land to Israel and also forbade them from signing any agreements with the people of the land to give parts of that land away. He said, if you do this, then the inhabitants of the land will become thistles in your eyes and thorns in your sides. And he forbid Israel from doing that. I don't know, maybe Mr. Carter teaches the Bible but doesn't believe the Bible. Nevertheless, he's pushing for President Obama to take this step of officially recognizing a Palestinian state which cannot support itself, has no settled borders. They do not meet the requirements for a Palestinian state. Should they be there? No, they should not. Can they be somewhere? Of course they can. There are 22 Arab nations with vast, vast land holdings where they can make their homes But they don't care about that. They care about one thing: wiping out the nation of Israel and the Jewish people. They sided with Adolf Hitler during World War II. They had hoped to bring about the final solution to the Jewish people and wipe them off the map. Well, that didn't work. Well, this one's not going to work either, but it is going to get much worse. Now, so where is this leading? Will President Obama actually recognize the Palestinian state? Let's go ahead and finish our article. According to President Carter, American recognition of an independent Palestinian state will make it easier for other countries to follow suit, Carter charged. Carter has been one of Israel's most ardent critics in recent years, and last year, President Reuven Rivlin refused to meet him when he visited Israel. The president of Israel said, no, I'm not meeting with President Carter, because he is such a lopsided critic of Israel and a proponent of the Palestinians. Now, another article today comes from Adam Razgon. The title of the article: PA says it will submit anti-settlement UN resolution within days. This was published in the Jerusalem Post 2 days ago, just hours after the Palestinian leadership said it plans to move forward a UN Security Council resolution condemning settlements. Now remember, the Palestinians can't even submit a resolution to the UN because they're not a member. They applied and they were voted down. So they're going to get one of their proxy nations, an Arab nation, to put the resolution forward for them. The article goes on to say Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he expected U.S. President Barack Obama not to support action against Israel at the world body. Now, does that mean Obama will veto it, or will just simply abstain? Those are two dramatically different positions. Netanyahu is saying he doesn't expect Obama to support, but Netanyahu and Obama have had horrible relations for the last 8 years or so. So will Obama, as his parting shot, allow this resolution that, according to the Palestinians, they're getting ready to submit to the United Nations within days? Now, what's this really all about? This is all about one of the two greatest prophecies that we're facing right now. Either one of them, when they come to pass, will be the greatest prophetic fulfillment in the last 2,000 years. Ladies and gentlemen, are you hearing me? I'm telling you, the Bible prophesies there's going to be a peace agreement signed. It should not be signed by Israel. It is going to result in Israel being thrown into the teeth of the Battle of Armageddon 7 years later. The peace agreement will be touted as a wonderful thing when it happens, but it's not going to be wonderful. It's going to end up in absolute disaster, and only the second coming of Jesus will save the Jewish nation at that time. Okay. Now, here's what the Palestinians are saying. We will begin to submit a resolution condemning settlements to the UN Security Council in the coming days, Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki told the Voice of Palestine, the official PA radio station. Palestinian leaders, including PA President Mahmoud Abbas, have said on numerous occasions over the past few months that the Palestinian leadership intends to submit a UN Security Council resolution. If such a resolution is brought before the Security Council, all eyes will be on President Obama to see whether he will direct the U.S. to vote for it, to abstain, or to cast a veto. In 2011, Obama vetoed a UN Security Council resolution condemning the settlements. By contrast, in 1979, the U.S., under then President Jimmy Carter, abstained on an anti-settlement vote, allowing it to pass. PLO Executive Committee member Ahmed Majdalani told the Jerusalem Post on Monday that he believes the U.S. will abstain. We have ongoing contacts with the U.S. administration about the forthcoming UN Security Council resolution, and our assessment is that the U.S. will abstain from taking a position, Majdalani said. Netanyahu, at a memorial ceremony at Mount Herzl for soldiers killed in the 1957 Sinai campaign, contrasted the strong U.S. support Israel enjoys today to what existed in 1956, when the U.S. and Russia compelled Israel to withdraw from the Sinai. I expect that in the twilight of President Obama's tenure, he will stand by what he said in 2011, that the way to achieve peace does not run through the Security Council resolutions, but rather direct negotiations with the Palestinians, which has been the U.S. position for years, Netanyahu said. At the UN General Assembly in 2011, Obama said of the Middle East conflict, peace will not come through statements and resolutions at the United Nations. If it were that easy, it would have been accomplished by now. Ultimately, he said, it is the Israelis and the Palestinians who must live side by side. Ultimately, it is the Israelis and the Palestinians, not us, who must reach agreement on the issues that divide them, on borders and on security, on refugees and on Jerusalem. Israeli diplomatic officials said that while Jerusalem was carefully following the issue, at this time it was speculative to say whether the Palestinians would indeed bring a resolution and how the U.S. would respond if they did. One of the things that you might want to notice they say they don't know whether they're going to bring a resolution or not. That will depend on the messages they're getting back from the U.S. Hey, you bring it, we're going to smack it down. Or if we're nebulous about it, then they'll be encouraged to bring the resolution. So we'll have to wait and see, but we don't have long to wait because the time is quickly running out. Maliki, in his interview with the PA radio station, added that states affiliated with the non-alignment movement and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, that's called the OIC, have already pledged to support a resolution against the settlements and consultations with Arab states are ongoing. Abbas attended both the meeting of the OIC in March and the non-alignment movement in September, where he called on member states to support a UN Security Council resolution condemning settlements. Maliki said that the resolution will be submitted and brought to a vote after consultation with Arab states are completed. Abbas and PLO Executive Committee Secretary General Saeb Erekat have since renewed their commitments to coordinate the submission of a UN Security Council resolution with their Arab counterparts. One Western diplomatic official said that the Arab quartet, made up of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates, has not been overly supportive of an anti-settlement resolution at this time. The reason, the official said, is because these countries do not want to give Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas any prize as he continues to thwart the orderly succession process they want to see put into motion inside Fatah. What's happened is Abbas was elected for a 4-year term 9 or 10 years ago. And when his 4 years was up, he just didn't have any more elections. He would call the elections, then cancel them. The United States has winked at this because the last time we pushed him into elections, Hamas won the elections and everything ended up worse than they were before. So now then, we're winking and turning our head the other way as Abbas ignores the elections. And yet this particular article's opinion was that many of the friends of Abbas are in fact pressuring him right now and not willing to line up behind him because they want him to put together an orderly succession to succeed him because he's now in his 80s. Now, it goes a little deeper than that, though. Iran is asserting itself in the middle of the Middle East, and Israel is against Iran. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, they're all Sunni states also against Iran. They cannot resist Iran alone, but together with Israel, they could thwart the purposes of Iran. That's another thing that was not spoken in this article, but is certainly a factor. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot going on right now. And for those of you that stay with us for the next half hour of our program, we'll get into some things a little bit deeper. However, right now, two things. Our latest magazine just arrived. If you're not a subscriber, don't wait. I wrote an article for this edition. Here's your sign. God said, "Behold, the Lord gives you a sign. A virgin shall conceive and bring forth a son." I tell the story in my words about what really happened between Joseph and Mary when Mary found out she was pregnant and had to convince Joseph that she had not been unfaithful to him. They were engaged to be married, but they weren't married yet. Joseph was on the brink of putting her away. Anyway, you need to subscribe to the magazine for this article and for many others because it's the End Time, and you certainly should be a subscriber to End Time magazine now. In addition to that, don't forget our new series, From Here to Armageddon. If you don't have it yet, don't wait another day. It might be a wonderful thing to ask for Christmas. The number to call, 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. I don't know about you, but I feel things speeding up. With the election of Donald Trump as our president, do you feel what I feel? Feel things speeding up? So get your magazine, get From Here to Armageddon, and become a partner with Endtime Ministries. 800-END-TIME is the number to call. We'll be right back.
From Here to Armageddon, a new exciting 8-lesson series to share with your friends and family. Order yours right away.
Answering many questions like, how far are we from the Battle of Armageddon? What will happen between now and then? Where are we on the timeline? Your questions answered in this exciting 8-lesson series, From Here to Armageddon.
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463. Order yours right away.
If ever people need to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will really impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctors' offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine did in my life. Call 1-800-363-8463. That's 1-800-END-TIME and get your subscription today.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archives button.
Before we begin taking your calls, I have one more article that I want to take a look at with you. But if you'd like to go ahead and start calling, the number to call, 877-END-TIME, to be on the air with me. But this article comes to us, the title of it is The UN, Obama, and the Israeli-Palestinian Conflicts, Moment of Truth. This, too, is in the Jerusalem Post just yesterday. Barack Obama has for months held his cards close to the chest on plans for action toward Middle East peace at the UN Security Council. But he is fast running out of time to play his hand. Let me just pause here a moment to say, President Obama tried with all of his might. In his first term, he tried with all of his might to get a peace agreement, to no avail. He turned around during his second term. John Kerry spent 9 intensive months. I've never seen anyone try so hard. Still no peace agreement. So consequently, Obama appears and has hinted that the only way to peace might be through a UN Security Council resolution. Well, he has not resorted to that because the American public and the American Congress would not favor that at all. And yet he's hinted around that he could go that way. That's the reason there's so much talk about it right now. Let's follow the article on. The outgoing administration says it is looking at ways to ensure that a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict does not die on their president's watch. The current debate in the West Wing is whether U.S. support for UN action would further the president's goal or conversely precipitate the very consequences he fears the most, an entrenchment on both sides of the conflict and diminished odds of a negotiated outcome. Obama knew he would face this dilemma even if his horse in the 2016 presidential race, Hillary Clinton, had won the presidency. She opposed any U.S. involvement in an initiative, as she put it, that would impose parameters for peace on the parties from without. But Obama now faces a much less predictable and much more hostile successor taking over in less than 2 months. That has changed his calculus on the UN option considerably, sources say. By taking action at the UN during Donald Trump's transition period, Obama would force the president-elect and his burgeoning team to come up with a policy response the White House believes would be half-baked. From what the Obama administration has seen of the incoming president's pattern of behavior, it expects that Trump would take their action as an attempt to box him in, prompting a response that would likely aggravate the situation further, placing Trump's brand new administration far to the right and facilitating Israeli and Palestinian actions that Obama has long considered counterproductive. Now, while they see a president-elect who does not appear concerned with Israel's continued building in the West Bank, they also note his interest in achieving a negotiated peace. Trump has referred to the two-state solution as the deal of all deals, and his drive toward the ultimate diplomatic achievement may lead him down a different policy path. In that spirit, Obama, who contemplated the downsides of UN action long before Trump's victory, may instead opt to use his newfound relationship with the president-elect to lobby him on the need to keep the two-state solution alive. Under Trump, the Republicans eliminated any mention of such an outcome to the conflict from its official party platform. They took away mention of the two-state solution possibility, which was unprecedented. Israel's leadership is gravely concerned that Obama will take action in his final days in office, joining a French effort to outline parameters at the Security Council for an ultimate peace agreement. Obama administration officials have in the past opposed such action as contrary to the pursuit of peace, expressing the belief that a peace agreement must be directly negotiated between the two parties. And yet, the administration fears that creating facts on the ground, new settlements, is systematically eroding the prospects of such a negotiation. They have thus held on to the option of UN action as a last resort. if not simply a tool to pressure Benjamin Netanyahu and his government. Israeli officials argue that a parameters resolution would codify the Palestinian Authority's opening negotiating position, setting the bar for future talks on their terms. Such a development would destroy any chances for a negotiated outcome, they warn. It would furthermore legitimize a Palestinian tactic of circumventing direct talks by relying on international bodies to support their actions, an approach the U.S. has criticized. Obama has considered giving a speech on the matter that would outline his own vision of how the process should proceed. That option is still on the table, senior administration officials tell the Jerusalem Post. But administration staff also believe that Israel must learn that it does not have, through proxy of the U.S., the power of an automatic veto at the UN Security Council. Now, America has vetoed resolutions against Israel 41 times since 1972. Consequently, Israel has assumed that the United States will always have her back. However, it hasn't appeared that way so much under the Obama administration, and still the threat hangs heavy over Israel's head. Maintaining this threat of U.S. action or of U.S. support for action has not only provided the State Department with much needed leverage over Jerusalem, but has also allowed them to remind Israel of the dynamics of the relationship. Well, that's the situation. I am in Israel twice each year. I follow the Israeli news every single day. And let me tell you, Israel's very concerned about the United States and the stance of the United States of America. It is tremendously concerning to Israel, because if the U.S. pulls away from Israel, she is left alone. So it's so important for us to realize how important it is for America to stay faithful to Israel. We're taking your calls now. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-Endtime, 877-363-8463. Let's go now to Florida. Joseph is calling from Florida. Hello, Joseph. I get a dial tone. Are you there?
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, Joseph. What's on your mind today?
I have a question, and the reason I ask, I'm legally blind, and